It's pretty well known that Premier League clubs have a lot of money, and that's why a lot of clubs spend big on transfers. In the Premier League alone, there have already been 3 transfers that surpassed the 100 million euro mark. And that's why for today's video, I thought it would be interesting to look at the 10 most expensive Premier League transfers, and we're going to be rating them to find out if they have been worth it. And of course, welcome to HITC Football. My name is Nuri, I'm your host for today. Be sure to subscribe if you're new, like the video if you enjoy it, and without further ado, let's get right into the video. In number 10 we find Kepa Arrizabalaga, who transferred to Chelsea from Athletic Bilbao for 72 million pounds. In 2018, Chelsea had to replace Thibaut Courtois, who went to Real Madrid, and Kepa was their answer. At least they thought it would be their answer, because this was not great. Kepa has been at the club for 4 years, racking up 124 appearances for the club. But to be fair, this could have been way more if Kepa performed a little bit better, because in the last 2 seasons, Chelsea favored Edouard Mendy because they didn't like Kepa that much. And it was especially the 1920 season that made Chelsea decide that they definitely needed a new goalkeeper. Because in that season, Kepa had a save percentage of just over 50%, which made him the worst goalkeeper in the top 5 leagues. And in addition, that stat also made him the worst goalkeeper in the Champions League that season. And no, we're not done there yet, because in the Premier League, his expected goals against was minus 9.2, which also made him the worst in the Premier League. And come on guys, for a 72 million pound signing, you can expect a little bit more than that. So that's why I have no choice. This transfer gets a 2 out of 10 for me. And in number 9, we have Nicolas Pepe's transfer from Lille to Arsenal. Another 72 million pound transfer, and another one that was absolutely horrible. And we're off to a great start. 2 terrible transfers already. But to be fair, I can't blame Arsenal for taking a chance on this guy, because in his last season with Lille, the 18-19 season, he was pretty good. He scored 22 goals, which made him the 2nd highest goal scorer, just behind Kylian Mbappe. But it wasn't Ligue 1, so do we really have to take that serious? And whatever you think of Ligue 1, this transfer didn't really put Ligue 1 in the shop window. Because in his 3 seasons with Arsenal, Pepe only scored 27 goals in 112 games. In his first season he scored 5, which was not great. In his second season he scored 10, which all of a sudden looked like Pepe was finally finding his feet again. But last season he only scored 1, and he definitely fell out of favor with Mikel Arteta. And right now his market value is only 22.5 million, and this is definitely not going to rise. So all in all, a terrible transfer. 3 out of 10. This has been an awfully positive start. And in number 8 we find Kai Havertz, and you guessed it, it's another 72 million pound transfer, but this time it was from Bayern Leverkusen to Chelsea. And also, this was a pretty good transfer. Over in Germany, Kai Havertz was great. He scored more than 18 goals in both of his last 2 campaigns with Bayern Leverkusen. And when Chelsea signed him, he was only 21 years old, so obviously they had to fork out a big fee, but to be fair, it was definitely worth it. At Chelsea, he kind of played all over the place. He played as a right winger, as an attacking midfielder, and also as a striker sometimes. Last season, he scored 14 goals in all competitions, which definitely isn't bad for somebody who isn't a real number 9. But all in all, his transfer has definitely been worth it, because in the 2020-21 season, he scored the only goal in the Champions League final against Manchester City. And I'm pretty sure that only that goal already makes him a club legend with many Chelsea fans. But apart from that, so far he has been great for Chelsea, so this is finally going to be the first decent grade out of this video, because this transfer deserves a 7 out of 10 for me. And in number 7 we find Virgil van Dijk's transfer from Southampton to Liverpool in 2018. And initially the 76.2 million pounds that Liverpool paid for the player was the highest fee ever paid for a defender in football. And that was obviously until another club paid more for a certain defender who is also in this list, so keep watching if you want to find out who that is. And in all honesty, this transfer has been worth every single penny that Liverpool paid for him, because this guy literally sorted out the entire Liverpool defense. Van Dijk is such a great defender, and it showed, because after he joined the club, Liverpool started to win every trophy possible. Together with the club, he won the Champions League, he won the Premier League, he won the FA Cup, he won the UEFA Super Cup, he also won the FIFA Club World Cup. This guy won everything. And in his 5 seasons with Liverpool, he racked up more than 180 appearances for the club. And this is a great example that an expensive transfer actually can work out. And that's why I literally have no other choice than to give this transfer a 10 out of 10. And in number 6 we're going to look at Lukaku's transfer from Everton to Manchester United for 76.23 million pounds. And many people remember this transfer as absolutely horrible, but let me shed a different light on the situation. In his first season with Manchester United, he scored 27 goals in 51 appearances as Manchester United finished 2nd in the Premier League. And let's be honest, when you're playing in the same competition as Liverpool and Manchester United, breaking those 2 up is pretty impressive. And in 2018, this was his highest scoring season of his entire career. And alright, the second season was different, because Manchester United didn't have a great season. They finished 6th, and Lukaku only scored 15 goals. But in my opinion, it's pretty understandable that Lukaku had a difficult difficult season in a struggling side. And the fact that right after that Inter was still willing to pay £66.6 million for the player says a lot. And alright, his second season wasn't great, but his first was absolutely unbelievable, so that's why I give this transfer a 6.5 out of 10. Next up is Jadon Sancho's transfer from Borussia Dortmund to Manchester United for £76.5 million. And to be fair, this was one of the longest transfer sagas that I've ever seen in football. It took Manchester United over a year to finally sign the player, but when they did, they expected a lot from him. The English winger was ripping it up in Germany, and the 1920 season was definitely his best with 17 goals in 32 games. And he was also an assist king over in Germany, so it's no surprise that Manchester United had to fork out a big fee in order to sign him. But he's only 22, and we've seen in Germany that he is a great player, so I think that it will definitely work at Manchester United. But judging from the transfer fee and his first season with United, I can't really give him a passing grade. So for now, I will give this transfer a 5 out of 10 just because it hasn't been good enough yet, but I think that this grade will go up in the next couple of years. And this is going to be a fun one because next up is Harry Maguire's transfer from Leicester to Manchester United. In 2019, Manchester United paid Leicester £78.3 million, and on this transfer the English tax was real. And it looks like Manchester United overpaid for this guy because this is the player I was talking about. This is still the most expensive defender in world football. Like I said, Manchester United overpaid because his transfer value was never higher than £63 million. But as terrible as Harry Maguire has been last season, which he clearly was, because last season he clearly wasn't great, he looked shaky in defense, and if you're a captain of a team that finished 6th and subsequently doesn't pay Champions League, you have to be held accountable for that. But to be fair, the 2 seasons prior he wasn't that bad, and also he's a regular feature in the English national team, so he's not completely terrible. But I understand that last season kind of overshadows it, and also the fact that he's still the most expensive defender in the entire world of football makes it a little bit difficult. And for the amount that Manchester United paid for the player, you at least expect to have one of the best defenders in the world, and Maguire unfortunately isn't that. But in all fairness, I don't think that Maguire is a terrible defender. I don't think that he's the best, obviously, and I definitely think that Manchester United clearly overpaid for him, so that's why I will give this transfer a 5 out of 10. And at number 3 we have Paul Pogba's transfer from Juventus to Manchester United in 2016 for £94.5 million. And this is the 4th and last Manchester United player in this list, by the way, and this transfer shows exactly why Manchester United is exactly in the place where they are now. Because I'm sorry, the way that they do business is just not worthy of a top club. How do you let a player leave, then buy him back for almost £100 million and then let him leave on a free again? This is only possible at Manchester United. But all of that aside, let's look at the player, and I personally think that Paul Pogba can be one of the best in his position, and the important thing in this sentence is can be, because unfortunately it doesn't always show with the player. But unfortunately in his 6 years with the club we didn't regularly see the best version of Pogba except for the 18-19 season, because in that season he scored 16 goals in 47 appearances from central midfield. And it's particularly impressive to realize that this was the season where Manchester United finished 6th, so he definitely showed that he can be a leader as well on the pitch. But unfortunately his magic only lasted for 1 season, and after we saw patches and glimpses of the player that he can actually be. But it clearly wasn't enough to justify the £94 million that the club paid for him. And especially considering that the player has left for free again, I can't give this a passing grade. I have to give it a 5 out of 10. And speaking about bad business, next up is Lukaku again, but this time for his transfer from Inter Milan to Chelsea. For this transfer last summer, Chelsea had to fork out £101.7 million. And subsequently Lukaku became the most expensive Premier League striker ever, and to only get 8 Premier League goals in return for that is not really great, is it? Last season Lukaku had his worst goal scoring season in over 10 years, and it looked like he completely didn't fit Chelsea's playing style. And this was just yet another example of the number 9 curse over at Chelsea. And the fact that he has just been sent out on loan again to Inter for only 7.2 million already says enough, and this is also the club that they just signed him from for over 100 million euros, so this is just such a bad piece of business. And that's why I can be brief on this one. This transfer gets a 2 out of 10. Honestly, one of the worst pieces of business in the Premier League history. And the last player in this list is the most expensive Premier League transfer ever. I'm obviously talking about Jack Grealish from Aston Villa to Manchester City. Last season, Manchester City had to fork out a massive £105.8 million in order to sign the player. I'm pretty sure that Grealish thought he would play a little bit more. He only played 26 times, scoring 3 times and giving 3 assists. When he played, he definitely wasn't bad, but Guardiola didn't trust him enough for the big games. But in all fairness, I definitely think that Manchester City also overpaid for this player, because at the time his transfer value was £58 million, and City paid almost double that. But Grillage is a great player, he's only still 26 years old, and I think that next season will actually be a big one. And it will also be a very decisive one for him because he has to show that he will be a first team player for Guardiola. And to be fair, there will be a lot of competition for him, but I think that he has the quality to become a first team player. But this is all in the future and we have to rate this guy for what he has shown in the last season, and that just wasn't enough, especially for the most expensive Premier League transfer ever. So in my opinion, this is the same situation as Jadon Sancho, because so far it hasn't been enough yet, especially when you think of the price tag. But I definitely think that in the end this transfer will come good, but for now it will be a 5 out of 10. So guys, that's the video done. I only gave 3 players a passing grade, so it definitely shows what I think of big money Premier League transfers. But let me know in the comments down below, do you think that the transfer fees paid in the Premier League are just way too high and players just can't live up to the expectations? And if you have a different opinion, also feel free to share with me in the comments down below. And as always, be sure to like, share and subscribe. Watch my videos on the end screen right now, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace.